What's up guys, and welcome to a new video. So today we're going to cover my first build of Season 6, the Quill Volley Spiritborn. It doesn't use any Uber uniques. This build is able to handle all content in the game, and I have pushed up to tier 90 in the pit without any issues. My gear is not even fully optimized, it can definitely push further. We do use 3 unique items to make the build shine, but at this point in the season, they're actually extremely easy to get and most people are just giving them away. In this build guide, we will cover everything from the skills used to the Paragon board. Timestamps will be down below, so feel free to jump ahead at any time. There will be a full tier 90 pit clear at the end of the video if you want to go ahead and check that out as well. There will be a link for this build on Mobalytics in the description, so definitely be sure to check that out. Mobalytics has been my go-to site for Diablo 4 since pretty much Season 2. They definitely have all the top builds for Season 6 Vessel of Hatred. Anyways, let's get right into it. Starting off with the skills used in the build, right here we have Quill Volley. This is going to be our main damage dealer. It starts out as a core skill, but because of our weapon, you'll see in the gear and aspects, it's a basic skill. And then because of our Spirit Hull, we have Eagle, Jaguar, and Gorilla tags on it. Basically, you hurl 5 feathers that pierce through enemies, each dealing a certain amount of damage. I mean, it's like a shotgun effect pretty much. And then, we have an aspect that also makes them come back to us, and they basically deal damage twice. Down for the modifiers, it's going to make enemies vulnerable for 3 seconds, and then we have vulnerable on our ring, and then we also have vulnerable from Soar, which we'll go over here in just a second. But yeah, this is going to be our main damage dealer. Next up we have Soar. Now we have this for vulnerable application, and then we have an aspect that also combines Vortex with this. So we cast this into a group of enemies and the Vortex will suck them all in, makes them all vulnerable. It also makes us unstoppable. It's just great for mobility as well. Right here we have Ravage. As you can see right there, passively, it gives us stacks of ferocity. We get 2 at all times because of it, and they're always up. And then, also it makes it to where we dash to enemies, and then, increases our vigor generation. Right here we have Scourge. You can see right here, call forth a wave of insects that bite enemies. Basically they crowd control them, they're fearing and slowing them, and they poison them. And then, each time that you hit an enemy with Scourge, you gain 1% multiplier to your damage versus that crowd controlled enemy, up to 50%, and you can see the stacks for that. When you use it has up to a 60% chance to lifesteal, 35% of the damage done. And then for the ultimate skill we have the Hunter. This is basically the best ultimate skill. Right there you see for the modifiers, it's going to overflow your ferocity by 4 stacks, and then it causes you to deal 100% increased damage to injured enemies for 8 seconds, which is a nice boost. Anything under I think 35% is injured. And then killing an enemy while the Hunter is present has a 40% chance to instantly reset its cooldown. And you'll notice when you use this, it's just constantly resetting the cooldown. And last but not least, we have Armored Hide. Basically, this is going to be, another way that we go unstoppable. Like we talked about along with Soar. We're pretty much unstoppable with this build at all times. And in the skill tree, you'll see that we get damage while unstoppable. So that works out good. Right here, passively, we gain 1 stack of Resolve every 5 seconds. So it's constantly boosting our resolve up. You encase yourself, becoming unstoppable, and gaining 100% block chance for 3.6 seconds. Actually, because of our key passive, it's going to bring it to rank 5, so we get even longer on that right there. And then for the modifiers, activating Armored Hide grants you a maximum resolve and increases your thorns by 400 for the duration. While active, Armored Hide increases your block damage reduction by 5% for every nearby enemy up to 20%. So, it's basically really good defensively, and we get maximum stacks of Resolve. And what Resolve does, you see right there, increases your damage reduction by 20% while active. Taking direct damage consumes a stack. You can hold up to 8 stacks. Now for our Spirit Hull choices, you can see up top we're going to choose Gorilla. Now whatever you choose up top is going to be a tag for all of your skills. And because of an aspect we have, we actually get a ton of damage using our Gorilla skill pretty often. And then as well, casting a Gorilla skill deals 100% thorns to your enemies you hit, and grants you a barrier for 5% of your maximum life up to 30%. So we always have a barrier because of this, and we also get a lot of damage in the skill tree and the Paragon board while we have a barrier. And then down below we have Jaguar for our second choice, maximum ferocity increased by 1, and we gain 1 stack of ferocity whenever you kill an enemy or damage a boss. So this is just keeping our ferocity topped off pretty much at all times. Now for our Mercenaries, right here we're going to go with Subo. And you can see we're going to go from Seeker down here to Wiretap. Now, the main reason that we use Subo is because he makes it to where you can see everything on your mini-map. You can see where all chests are, herbs, stuff on the ground. It's just awesome. It's like having pretty much map hacks. So that's why I choose Subo when it comes to this. We're going to take Wiretrap, Ready at Hand, right here, Cover Fire, down to opening fire. And down here you see you deal 25% multiplicative increased critical strike damage to enemies hit by Subo's cover fire. For our reinforcement, we're going to go with Rahir. And then when it comes to our choice, we're going to go with Bastion. Basically, Rahir takes a protective position for 5 seconds, redirecting 90% of the damage. Alright, now we will go over the gear and aspects really quickly. You'll see that I have a ton of armor when we only need 1,000 for the cap. With this build, because of this aspect right here, unyielding hits, basically this is going to give us a ton of damage. Casting a gorilla skill increases your weapon damage by 25% of your armor for 3 seconds. So, you know, we're always casting gorilla skills because our Quill Volley is a gorilla skill, because of our Spirit Hall. And then, you know, we get a huge damage boost. It's like tripling our damage because of this aspect. So we definitely want to hit the, and you see right there, maximum 1,500 bonus weapon damage. So there's a cap on it of 1,500. So right now with the 25% and the armor that I have, I'm just like barely under the cap. I'm getting like around 1,400 or a little bit more than 1,400 extra damage, which is quite a bit considering our weapon only has, you know, basically 600 damage. So that's why we go way over with the armor. Really quickly, I'll show you my stats. We'll go down. Don't worry about the cold resistance. We actually use a elixir to take care of that. Down here, we got like 1k critical strike damage. Don't worry about crit strike chance. Every hit's going to be a crit strike because of our weapon. We'll go over that in a minute. So if you want to pause to see any of my stats, you can. So starting out up top right here, we have first unique that you're going to want to get with the build, the Harmony of the Abwaka. This is really easy to get. Beast and Ice drops it. You can get it at, you know, any Torment level with the Beast and Ice. And then, you know, people are just giving these away. They drop left and right all the time. So you shouldn't have a problem getting this. But you see right there, according to your secondary Spirit Hall choice, your skills are all additionally Jaguar, Eagle, Gorilla, or Centipede skills. And then also your skills deal 30% multiplicative increased damage per spirit type they have. So right here, you know, we have Eagle, Jaguar, and Gorilla with our Quill Volley. You know, that's giving us a 90% multiplier. So having this helmet is actually a huge damage boost. As for the runes that we're going to use up here in the helmet, we're going to go with Pak Q. Basically, you can see right there, spending 300% of your maximum resource. We're going to invoke the Druid's Earthen Bulwark. We're constantly just going through resource like immediately, so it's going to be up at all times, giving us a nice barrier. Down into the chest piece now. A lot of people are running Tyrael's Might right here. I wanted to run this build with no Uber Uniques. I actually have the means to craft Tyrael's Might. For the sake of this video, I did not want to get Tyrael's. I wanted to, you know, make the build without any Uber Uniques, so it's easier for people that maybe don't have a lot of time to play or just can't find the Uber Uniques or aren't able to acquire them. So anyways, though, you want to get Dex, Maximum Life, Armor. Now, we want to try to get armor rolls everywhere like we had talked about with the aspect. We want to boost our armor up pretty high. Since we don't have Tyrael's Might, we're going to have to make up for our resistances in, you know, obviously different spots. So right here is where I'm getting my shadow resistance for one of the tempers. And then you want to get Vortex Temper on there, so you get more Vortex size. And then for the aspect right here on the chest, we're going to go with the aspect of Might, giving us 20% damage reduction. Right here into the gloves. Now you want to try to get ranks to Quill Volley. This is the only legendary piece that I have left. The rest are all ancestrals. I just don't have a good pair of gloves. I haven't found one yet or been able to trade for them. You definitely want to get the ranks to Quill Volley though. Right here I went with resistance to all elements, maximum life, Quill Volley, crowd control duration, and then you want to get basic skill damage. Because of our weapon down here, it's going to also make Quill Volley a basic skill. For the aspect on here, really important, the aspect of unyielding hits. This is a huge damage aspect, probably the most damage in the entire build when it comes to the aspects, so you definitely want to have this one. Try to get the highest roll you possibly can. It's really important. If I had 30% right there, I could actually drop one of my armor rolls on a piece of gear, but I only have 25 so far. That's the best that I've found. Down into the pants, we go with the Juggernauts aspect, giving us more armor, obviously. Really quickly, if you're having armor problems or you can't find it on gear, you can also run the aspect of Disobedience on your chest instead of the Might aspect, and then that way you can get even more armor out of that if you need it. Back into the pants though, you want to get maximum life, once again armor, and then try to get ranks to basic skills. I mean, it's not super important, you don't have to have it, but if you can, try to get those ranks to basic skills. Right there you want to get Soar size, and then stacks to maximum resolve. Resolve is going to give us basically more damage reduction, but on top of that, we also get damage. You'll see in the Paragon board. Into the boots, once again, armor roll, movement speed, and then resistance to all elements. For the tempers, movement speed, and vortex size. And then on the boots, this is the aspect that I like to go with. Turbulence aspect. Basically, Soar casts Vortex at its landing location. So anytime that we use Soar, we're casting Vortex. Alright, now into the weapon, the Rod of Capellic. if you can't find one of these for free from somebody or get one on the trade site, then you can get this from Tyrael or Endgame. Both drop it, and you know it drops left and right. So now this is nice to have, and you definitely want to have this with the build. This is probably the most strong, unique, and core part of this guild. You can see right there your core skills are now additionally basic skills and free to cast, but deal up to 30% reduced damage based on their vigor cost. When cast at maximum vigor, your core skills consume all vigor to return to full damage. Cast at their largest size and become guaranteed critical strikes, with a 3% multiplier increased critical strike damage for each point of vigor spent this way. So, you know, we're getting huge damage from this. And on top of that, makes all hits critical strikes. And then because of our ring, which we'll go over in a minute, you know, we always regenerate our resource when we're hitting enemies to full after each shot. So almost every strike is like critical strikes for the most part. As for the runes right here, we're going to go with Zol Cry. Another way that we're constantly having Vortex go off, aside from using Soar. Up into the amulet up here. Now, kind of important, you definitely want to get a roll to total armor. This is going to help to get all that armor that we need for the damage. Now, I got lucky and found this one for cheap with the greater affix, which is obviously going to make the roll way higher. Can't get one with a greater affix, then, you know, get what you can. Just roll it on there yourself, find an amulet with it, however you do it. Resource cost reduction right there for me is a dead mod. I would use a rank to one of the things inside of the skill tree, or, you know, you could get damage there or whatever else you can find as a good stat in place of that. And then also you want to get percent dexterity. That's kind of important. That's going to boost your dexterity up quite a bit. For the temperings on there, you want to go with total armor and basic skill damage, really important. Now for the aspect on the amulet, we have the Moonrise aspect, and as you can see right there, I'm actually missing a 30% multiplier, so that's even more damage that I would be doing. Unfortunately, that's the best roll that I have. Basically, it's going to give us more attack speed, and you know, since our Quill Volley is a basic skill, we get that huge multiplier from it. We're constantly spamming Quill Volley, so this is constantly up. Now really quickly, for a while, I did have the Unyielding Hits aspect up here, and the Moonrise aspect down here. I had them switched. That way I was getting more armor from having the Unyielding Hits aspect up here. But if you can get that armor figured out and move that to here, then you want to go with your Moonrise up into your amulet, because then overall it's going to be more damage. See, now having the Unyielding down here, I'm still hitting the 1500 total damage that I can get. Now into our first ring right here. Now you'll see on there we do have, you know, a lucky hit to make enemies vulnerable. Yes, Quill Volley makes enemies vulnerable for 3 seconds, but that's when they're hit with at least 3 of the feathers, which most times they will be. But, you know, this is just to ensure, like, maybe enemies that are kind of further away from us are, you know, vulnerable at all times. So we're just getting that maximum damage with the vulnerable at all times. We got maximum life. You will need to get another resistance on here. Right here, I needed poison resistance, so that's what I got on my ring. For the temperings, we want to get resource regeneration and then even more basic skill damage. Now, you might be wondering why we get the resource generation. You want a certain amount of resource generation, along with the ring that we'll talk about here in just a second, depending on your role, in order to completely top off your resource every time you cast Quill Volley. So you definitely want to have resource generation up to a certain point. And the final unique that we want in the build, you can see right here, we get the Ring of the Midnight Sun. When you critically strike, you regen 50% of the vigor you've spent in the last 2 seconds. That 50%, along with all the resource generation that we have, you know, we're just topping off our resource every time that we critically strike, which is all the time, because of the Rod of Capella, makes it to where every one of our shots with Quill Volley is a critical strike. So that's how we're just constantly topping off our resource over and over and over. Now for the gems used, right over here, guys, you definitely want to get the Amethyst. We're going to go for barrier generation. We want to, you know, get as much out of our barrier as we can. And, you know, we want to get barrier generation over there, which is actually going to turn into damage as well. Now, you could put dexterity in there, which does get you a nice chunk. I think it's like 120 each piece. So you're getting like 240 more dexterity along with our, you know, bonuses. But I've actually tested it with this setup, and we get more out of the barrier as far as damage, and we get more survivability out of the barrier. And then over here into the jewelry, you want to cap off resistances or get armor, you know, skulls or diamonds, just depending on how you have things set up. If you're going the route that I have and you have similar gear, then you're going to get 1 diamond up here and, you know, 2 skulls right here. Now, I didn't really talk about what you want to masterwork too much. I don't have all of the best masterworking done. You know, I kind of went with what I've got on most pieces. Aside from, like, up here on the necklace, I definitely wanted to hit the total armor at least 1 time when it came to the greater affix. And then over on the gloves, you know, the first time around, I tried to hit the Quill Volley, and I got lucky to hit it the second time. But in the planner in the description, you will see the best choices for masterworking when it comes to all the gear. Now we'll briefly run through the skill tree up top. When it comes to the basic skill, we don't use that. Put 2 points wherever, just so we can get down here into our core skills. You want to max out Quill Volley, obviously, and then make sure to run that back to advantageous. We get a lot of damage because of advantageous. Right here, I have 2 ranks into vigorous. I found that this makes it good to where I'm constantly topping off my vigor, like we talked about in the gear and aspects. Now, depending on your setup, you might have more generation when it comes to resource somewhere else, so you could put less or more points in, you know, all depending. But I'd say you have around the same setup as me to go with 2 points right here. 3 into balance exertion. Don't worry about more vigor. You know, our skills don't cost vigor. We use all of our vigor all the time, so it doesn't matter. Basically, we're taking this for the increased damage. Down here, more increased damage. Now it says for basic skills, but don't forget that our Quill Volley also has the tag of basic skill now because of our weapon. Down into the focus. Now I take soar like we talked about. You know, we run it back to measured soar for the unstoppable. This is just a great mobility skill. Makes to where we go unstoppable, and then it's paired up with vortex, so it's just grouping enemies together at all times. Really nice to have. 1 into focal point. We're going to go with 3 into apex for more damage. We're going to go with diminishment right here for vulnerable enemies, dealing 15% less damage to us. You know, we get this from gear from Mirage over here. Don't worry about that. We're going to take Ravage, run that back to Measured Ravage. Into our defensive skills, right here we're going to go with Armored Hide. Run that back to Enhanced and Reinforced Armored Hide. 1 into Patient Guard. And right there we get a 10% block chance. And then we're going to get 2 into Auspicious. Now this is going to give us more barrier generation right here. We're going to take Scourge and run that back to Adaptable Scourge. Down into the potency skills, we're going to go with Resilient. We're going to take Brilliance and Acceleration. Right here we're going to get 3 into Potent. Down into our ultimate skill, like we talked about, we're going to take the Hunter, run that back. We're going to take Resolution, Spiritual Attunement, and Supremacy. You know, in here it's a lot of damage and stuff, so definitely want to grab all this. And then down for our key passive. This is kind of important. We want to get Prodigy's Tempo. Now you can see right there every 3rd consecutive cast of the same basic skill, which don't forget our Quill Volley is a basic skill now. Increases all purchased skill ranks by 2, so we get 2 more ranks to all skills, which is nice. And then every 3rd consecutive cast of the same core or potency skill reduces all active cooldowns by 10%. So that's how you see our cooldowns in the gameplay just flying down constantly, is because of this right here. Alright, now we'll quickly jump into the Paragon board. Don't forget there's a link in the description for this build if you want to check it out that way. I'm level 226, so you know it goes up to 300. I am missing a lot of Paragon points. Definitely going to grind for those. But you know, I think this board is fairly decently optimized. And then if you look at my glyphs, you know, this is my highest one. I have an 80, 75, 73, 70, 46. Now, you definitely want to get them at least to 46, because once you get to 46, you get the bigger radius, and then you also make it a legendary glyph. And then you'll get the bonus that's down at the bottom right there, increased lightning damage by 5% multiplicative. You know, they all have bonuses once they become legendary. So you definitely want to get those to 46. Starting off in the starter board right here, we have Spirit, giving us a lot of critical strike damage. In radius, we have 100, well, we take 100 dexterity. There's even more than that in radius, but you know, we're getting a nice chunk of crit strike damage right here. We want to go with Tenacity and Prime. The next board that we're going to go into is going to be the Sapping board. When you cast 3 Gorilla, Jaguar, Eagle, or Centipede skills with the same Spirit in a row, restore 15% of your vigor and deal 30% increased damage. So we're getting a nice little damage boost right there. Right here, we're going to grab Opportunist. You know, we want to get as much resource as we can, and we get resource generation. Our resource turns into a multiplier because of our weapon for our critical strike damage. So right here, we're going to get Resilience. Right here, Denial, Frightful. Up here, we're going to take Revenge. Now, you can see right there, this is boosting the nodes around it. We're getting damage, maximum resource, dexterity. Also down there for the additional bonus, we constantly deal thorns damage because of our Spirit Hull having the Gorilla, and we're getting a multiplier because of that. Over here, you're going to take Eager Prey and Concentrated. The next board that we'll come into is going to be the Convergence board. You deal bonus damage equal to 20% multiplicative of your 2 highest bonus damage types combined, up to 30% total, getting us a nice multiplier right there. Go with Training for life. Over here, non-physical damage. We're going to grab Spearhead and Skillful. Glyph that we're going to throw in right here will be Talon. We're getting Eagle damage and then lightning damage as well. But you can see right there your Eagle skills deal 15% multiplicative, increased critical strike damage. The next board that we'll come into is going to be the Vicious Shield board. You do 1% multiplicative increased damage for each 3% of your maximum life you have as barrier. That's why we want to stack that barrier up. We're getting a nice multiplier for every 3% that we have. So this is actually giving us a nice damage boost. Right here, we're going to get Fearless, and we're going to take Raptor. We're going to throw Canny in right here. We get non-physical damage. And then you can see right there for the additional bonus, you also get, another multiplier. And then for the legendary bonus, we get another multiplier. And the final board that we will come into will be the revealing board. You can see right here, lucky hit up to a 30% chance to knock down vulnerable enemies. And then you deal 30% multiplicative increased damage to crowd controlled enemies. We're constantly crowd controlling enemies, so that's a nice multiplier. In this board right here, we're going to throw Colossal. This gives us gorilla damage, damage to close, multiplier. And then also you see right there, you deal 2% multiplicative increased damage for each stack of resolve you have. And I have either 12 or 13 stacks, so it's getting us like a 24% multiplier, maybe 26. Right now there will be the full tier 90 clear in the pit if you want to go ahead and check that out. If this video has been helpful at all, guys, don't forget to leave me a like and subscribe for more future videos. If you have any questions or comments, let me know down below. Anyways, thanks for watching.
Not ready yet. ready yet.